Now, universities here on Merseyside and right across the region are already busy trying to attract next year's students. Tony Blair says he wants 50% of young people to go on to higher education. But the actual figure in the North West is between a third and a quarter. So why can't we hit the Prime Minister's target? And what does this mean for the region's growing knowledge-based economy? This report from Wilfred Darlington.
But today, I set a target of 50% of young adults going into higher education in the next century. Why, if education is the key to success, do we have so many children leave school at 16 when we should be doing all we can to get them to stay there?
The Prime Minister's ambition to raise participation in higher education was first put to the Labour Party conference in 1999. Raising the figure to 50% by 2010 remained a key aspect of the big conversation, in which it was also pointed out that many other developed countries enjoy a much higher participation rate. Yet again, the pledge featured in the Labour manifesto in this year's general election, although its success by this point seemed to be contingent upon an improvement in secondary education. So, will the target be achieved by 2010?
That target will be very difficult to meet.
I don't see any prospect of that target being met, certainly not by 2010.
Achieving that target is going to be a significant challenge.
I don't think they'll meet the target by 2010.
So, what does the education system need to do to boost participation by another 8%? The North West is well below the national average for the number of young people going to university. In half of the region's local authorities, fewer than 1 in 4 young people experience higher education. One option, then, is to recruit from those social backgrounds which, for cultural reasons, produce few university students.
We live in a country where in some streets, 8 out of 10 young people go to university. We also live in a country where we'll find streets where only 8 in 100 young people go to university. The University of Liverpool runs a primary project which is part of Aim Higher.
Today are questions like, how do you get to university?
So we target schools in areas where there is not a strong tradition of going to university. We spend a lot of time enabling the kids to think, oh, here's somebody who's been to university, this is what they look like.
Primary school, all through our lives we're always making friends, and it's really important.
And we do it in a fun way with Professor Fluffy and all that. We're sowing seeds so that in a few years' time, when they're year 9 and they get asked what, for example, they want to do single science, double science, they'll know that they're going to make choices. The feedback we get is incredibly positive.
How many people would like to go to university, do you think, when they were older? Yeah? That's nearly a full class. Fantastic.
The current rate of participation in higher education is just above 42%, well short of the government target. A simple analysis of the problem seems to be that there are insufficient numbers of young people having traditional qualifications and the necessary skills for university entrance.
The main reason for failing to meet the target will be that we've exhausted the pool of A-level students that are eligible to proceed to higher education. Certainly people in schools are suggesting that there are many students who are not reaching their full potential, and if the qualification system can help bring people on to reach their full potential, which could well be better than they're currently achieving, that could make up some of the shortfall.
The government white paper, published recently, with its proposal for a radical reformation of the secondary school system, restates the importance of education as the catalyst of social mobility. Concerns are also expressed in certain subjects of the secondary curriculum, particularly in what the paper describes as the critical areas of maths and science.
Traditional science degrees in good universities are very dependent on building block learning, where you actually have to know things like the periodic table. And one of the concerns that I have very much is that if you've moved from dual certificate GCSE science to the sort of science which is let's sit down and talk about the environment, you're going to end up with lots of students from independent schools being the ones who are going to do the traditional university science degree. I don't think the government wants that.
Steve Walker is a consultant in physical sciences to the Higher Education Academy.
What has happened basically is that schools at GCSE level are using doubly certificated science, which means essentially that they deal with 3 science subjects in the space of 2. So inevitably they come to A-level and then to university with a different background and a different experience of school. All universities have responded by increasing the length of their degree courses.
The benefits for the North West of a 50% participation rate are huge. The higher education sector in the North West already adds £3 billion to the region's economy. Raising participation by 8% from 42 to 50 will mean an increase in the student population of 19 or 20%. This being so, the economic advantages for the North West could be even higher.
Universities do tend to attract businesses, high-tech businesses. If an area doesn't have universities, its chances of being part of the knowledge economy, I think, are that much less. I think that's well attested. We've seen, on the converse, we've seen areas with clusters of universities having Silicon Valleys and Silicon Glens and this sort of thing. They're often university orientated. So I think there are benefits of that kind, certainly direct benefits.
And firstly, in Scotland, participation rates are much higher than in the North West, and it seems to me that what's good for the people in Scotland is good for the people in the North West. But secondly, as long as we provide knowledge-based jobs and stimulate the North West economy to provide those knowledge-based jobs, then there will actually be a demand for labour, not a surplus of labour. It's what they did in Singapore, and the Singapore economy rocketed as a result. We want to achieve the same in the North West.
Wilfred Darlington reporting, and that's just about it. Now it's time to go back to John Sopel in London.